Hi everyone, welcome to Becoming. So in this third part of the video, Paul will share some more about what all of these interests and major paths mean to him. So Paul, can you please tell us how and why these, for example, physics and astrophysics, why are your interests meaningful to you?
Well, the first thing that got me into it is really just that it was interesting. Kind of everyone has their own interests, and if you ask them why they like it, I mean, I like understanding how things work, and physics is about understanding how stuff works in the universe. So I always like that. And I guess after a while, you start to see the value of what you do, wherever that is, um, and at least for me, there's a few parts to it. One is education. I really like teaching as part of doing physics, and teaching other people the things that I enjoyed and the useful skills involved. And astrophysics isn't always very useful for most people, but it teaches you a way of thinking and skills and learning how to use math and equations um, and those are useful skills. It's hard to draw that connection at first. My other cat's joining me today, uh, and it's hard to see those connections at first. Like, where am I going to use this astrophysics? And it's not that you're going to use astrophysics in your day-to-day life, but understanding how to read data to make models for things, calculate things, those are useful skills. And teaching those to other people is a value to society. And so I enjoy that. And with research, I enjoy contributing to human knowledge in some way. Even however small it is, it's still a contribution. And I find that interesting and exciting.
Yeah, because I think mostly sharing with others what you enjoy doing and also like what you've learned is actually really cool because I think often new ideas often get inspired when things are shared and like for instance when like a teacher is passing on his or her knowledge to his or his student. I think that's a process of actually spreading spreading knowledge and actually creating new things. So I think that's a really I think teaching is a really great career because it just helps with the spread of knowledge and just creativity in general. Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of careers are like that. Lots of art is like that, where artists create stuff that they enjoy, and they hope other people enjoy it too. Fundamentally, that's what they do, um, and they make other people happy or excited or comforted or whatever feeling they try to convey in that art. Um, that's what they're doing. So that's, in some ways, anything that you're providing for other people, you can find meaning that way.
hmm Yeah, because like personally, I've also started some songwriting. I think I like music since when I was really small because I think maybe my mom played a lot of Mozart when I was really really small. So I think I gradually developed this interest in songwriting. So I think that's also kind of similar when it's like a method of trying to like spread ideas and like just some general thoughts to others. So I think that's kind of similar in some ways. So like, is there any other like, for example, like a fun fact or other story you would like to share about yourself?
Um, Fun fact, I don't know what is interesting to your audience. As you see, I have two cats. They each have visited us during these three parts. Um, and I have two kids. That's interesting now. And uh, I don't know.
Actually, pretty cool. So like,
Yeah.
normally, how would you like balance your time between like time with family and like doing research and teaching? Like, how would you normally do that?
It's tough, and it's tough almost no matter what you do. My advisor in grad school, he was telling me it only gets worse. Like as you get older, you get more and more responsibilities and jobs and things to do. Um, and time management is a big part of life. I mean, that's uh, everyone has the same amount of time every day, and you have to find a way to use that fixed amount of time to get done what you want to do. And it's tough. And so there's various tricks out there. I recommend people just read about productivity and time management, and follow people who you think are productive and learn tricks from them. But kind of the big principle is to first figure out where you're spending your time. A lot of people aren't aware of where they spend their time, exactly how much time they watch TV or something. And so take note of where you are spending your time and see if you can cut back things that aren't as important to you, um, or things that seem to be taking a long time. See if you could make them shorter. If you have, I don't know, some regular task that you have to do, um, like checking email, um, it's more efficient to check all your email in big chunks, than to check it every hour of every day. So that the idea of chunking is um, an important time management trick, and as is the idea that multitasking generally does not work. Um, Many people think they're getting many things done multitasking, but you're really not, because your mind can only really focus on one thing at a time. And if you're listening to background music while you work, that's fine as long as you're not paying attention to the music. um, but there's always a risk, for me at least, if I have music playing, I'll occasionally listen to the song and not whatever I'm working on.
Yeah.
I definitely cannot listen to a podcast or an audiobook while doing something else, unless it's something like driving, where um, you know if you're doing, if one of the things has to be something you're pretty much on autopilot doing. And driving for me is pretty automatic. It doesn't take that much attention. Just keep your eyes on the road. um, but um, like trying to do work and listen to a podcast doesn't work, because your brain can only do one thing at a time. And if you have to switch your focus from one thing to the other, that is inefficient and it takes extra time. So there's lots of research showing that. So that's just one little trick. There's a 1,000 little tricks like that I recommend people go try to read about and learn what will help each of you, because it's different for everyone.
Yeah, because I think these are really useful tips. Because like sometimes I didn't realize before. Like I used to listen to like pop songs before, like while I do my homework. But later I realized that like I tend to focus more on the music than on my work, because like I also take music like in my IB curriculum right now. And then so and then sometimes I would even start saying that, okay, so what harmonies are they using in the song? What's the structure of this? And then I just go, I don't know where I go. So like I go off to like music analysis, and then so
Exactly.
yeah. So I
Right.
think, as Paul mentioned, it's really important to focus on one thing at a time, yeah, to make sure that it's really productive. Yeah, so now I don't listen to music anymore, or like maybe just some like classical music, because I think I tend to focus on my work better if I do it that way. And in the end, would you like to share with everyone who's interested in physics, astrophysics, or like having cats in their family, like raising children? Would you like to give them some advice or suggestions regarding anything about these?
um, well, I mean, I think one of the important things I mentioned earlier is learning how to learn, and not waiting for classes. It's a really important thing. I mean, you'll probably hear a lot of people saying, "Oh, it's good to be a self-directed learner," or something like that. But it really is true. Like, um, classes are kind of a structure to force you to push yourself through something that's difficult, and there's support with, you have teachers to help and ask questions if you get stuck, and that's important. Classes are good for some things, but you should really try to learn how to answer those questions on your own. And only if you get really stuck, like if you spend, I don't know, 10, 20, 30 minutes or an hour trying to get unstuck, answer a problem that you have that you can't, a question you have you can't answer, then you can try to find someone who might have the answer. But there's lots of resources online. Like there's a website, um, the Stack Exchange series of websites. Like there's a physics Stack Exchange and a math Stack Exchange, and it's a question and answer site for any individual subject, and they're very helpful. And you can ask questions. If you get stuck, or usually first you try to search for someone having already asked a question, and chances are, for most common questions, if you're a beginning learner, someone has asked that question before, especially in something like physics or math. And so practice getting good at searching the internet for answers to your questions. And then you'll find that you can learn on your own pretty well. And and then when you go ask teachers or mentors or parents or anyone for questions, you'll come with the really good ones, the ones you couldn't find an answer to. And then they'll like that much better. It's always much more interesting answering a hard question or an interesting question than something that people get every day. So, and that skill of learning on your own is the most important skill you could learn, because you can learn anything once you know how to learn. And there's many, I was going to say tips and tricks, but it's more than that. There's a science of how people learn that I recommend you learn about, because what better way to increase your learning than to learn how to do it better? So, there's skills like, words like metacognition is understanding how well you understand something, and to reflect on, am I learning this? Like, what did I learn today? Um, after you read something, um, reflect. Sometimes when I read a book, I'll finish a page and blank out and forget what the page is about. I just zone out or something. Um, be aware when that happens, and if it's an important thing, then make sure you read it again. Try to stay focused. But it's interesting that most people forget most of what they read. If um, especially when you get older, when you have, imagine having read a book 10 years ago. And do you remember that? Like, do you remember what the book was about more than just a one sentence summary of it? So when you're studying or reading something important, not just like a fiction book or something, but if you're reading something for a subject that you care about, think about taking notes in some permanent place, whether you have a system of notebooks or whether you have a system of files on your computer, or like I use Evernote. Think of a way to store, knowledge permanently, and not everything. You don't have to every fact on every page write down, but if there's a really big eye-opening part you read and suddenly everything clicks and you say, wow, this now makes a lot of sense, that's the type of thing you want to write down, because that's the type of thing that made that book worth reading. And in 5 or 10 years, that's the thing you don't want to forget. And just the act of writing it down will help you remember it even better. You may not ever need to go read that note again, but the fact that you wrote it down is important. And occasionally you'll find yourself trying to, remember what that book was about. Someone might ask you about it, or you find out you need to use that book for some project in the future. And you say, "Oh, I read a book on that. What was the book about? What was the main point?" And you go look at your notes of the big ideas you got from that book. So um, that's just one example of being more deliberate with your learning, and uh, start practicing that, and learning more about learning.
Mm. Yeah, I think that's a really nice, I think advice because I think a lot of people, like including myself, like at first I would think like, okay, so I should like maybe learn this specific subject, and then so okay, I'm knowledgeable in this subject, but like gradually realized that like it's important to actually have the ability to learn across interdisciplinary fields and actually just knowing how to learn, and so like you can like apply that skill where whatever you're learning. So I think that's a really great point that Paul mentioned just now. And so I think it's really important to actually check out those suggestions and advice regarding how to learn. And I think that will definitely benefit a lot of people in learning. Okay, so I think becoming is actually when you take a small step forward every day. And thank you all so much for joining Becoming today. And we're really, really happy to have Paul here with us today because I'm sure we all learned a lot. And then it's all those like solid tips and just like experiences from Paul in general. So thank you all so much for watching today's video. And I'm really happy that Paul is here today. And just keep in touch and hope you all have a nice day.
Thanks.